Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Nestor of GPS Global Production Source and Mike Sipe Entertainment Events and Productions. We're going to continue on in our preference folder located at the very top under Arena. Click Preference and then end up in this particular area. We've already discussed our general and we are now in audio. For audio, we won't be touching base on most of these items, but for the main purpose of getting audio out of your computer, you may want to consider that your audio output device is going to be the most important. As you can see, MacBook Pro speakers is currently selected, and it's the only selection for me to be able to get sound out of my computer at this time. Should I wish to send my signal out of my computer, out of the something other than my MacBook Pro speakers, then I would want to plug it into my USB ports, and it would automatically read within this section. You'll have another option to select whether those are headphones or anything such as an external sound card. You'll be able to see it in this area. The only caveat to that it would be that you would have to close out of Arena Resolume in order for it to read it. It will not automatically read it, so you would have to come to Arena and quit out of it. I'm not going to do so at this time, but if I were to do so and plug in headphones once I open Arena up again, you will notice that it is in place. So something that I have sent feedback to Resolume about. Shouldn't have to close your software in order to be able to have it read. Hopefully they'll respond, which they're very good at doing, and resolve that what I believe is to be a problem. Over here you can select your input device. I have my MacBook Pro. No input device has been selected yet because I am not using the Resolume microphone to record the audio of my voice that you're listening to. I'm using an OBS system to do so. So you would, if you wanted to, you can actually select your microphone and you would be able to do a recording of audio and or your vocal through this particular location. As I mentioned, I won't be getting too much into this particular topic, but over here you will have master output delay. So if you want to delay the signal that you're sending out slightly, you can certainly do so here. And we're going to skip all of these other areas because they are a little bit more advanced than what this video is meant to do. We're going to go over to video briefly and show you a little bit about your plugins. Plugins are available to you. If you get them from Resolume, you'll be able to search in your particular folder and open up your plugins, and they'll show up over here, and then Resolume will be able to find those plugins whenever you access them because they're in place. With the dark grid, light grid, and black grid, I like to leave it at a dark grid because it's easier on the eyes, easier to work with. If I were to select the light grid, you'll notice on the lower left hand side that it becomes light. Then you have the black, which is obviously a black pixel that you would, of course, depend on your preference, want to work with, but I like to have it on the dark grid, just very subtle. DMA texture allows you to actually bring in outputs from different softwares within your computer. So if you had a quartz file creator and you were working on that, you wanted to send that quartz file to Resolume, you would be able to do so with the forced on DMA texture. You can have it auto detect and you can also have it off. We would just want to leave it in your default. With MIDI tends to get a little bit interesting when you have an external controller to trigger hot cues and clips and work within layers and faders, and it gets a lot of fun when you have an external device that you're able to control as opposed to the keyboard and mouse that normally would accompany Resolume if you didn't have an external device. By default, it is set to a musical note of C equals C4. Depending on the equipment or hardware that you have, you can decide to do a middle C of equal to C3, or older equipment of legacy. It would work. You can definitely play around, see which one works best for the hardware that you have. If you do plug something in and it's a MIDI device, you would most likely see it here. If it doesn't show up there, just click on refresh. You'll notice that it comes up and you'll be able to select it. You always see sound control. I'm not gonna click on this particular tab because it does have some personal information such as my IP address and something you can work on your own and figure out what that is. DMX is a language for lighting, and you would be able to work on your lighting universes here on this tab. It's actually has a channel offset of up to 512. If you're familiar with DMX lighting, you know that 512 is the industry standard. If you try to do anything above 512, it wouldn't allow you to do it. If you try to input 513 or above, it would not allow you to do it. It'll default back to 512. If you use your 512 channels within the universe of 0 and subnet 0, you can go ahead and increase. And within the subnet, you would have 16 universe. So on subnet 1, you will have 16 universe with 0 counting as one of them. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 15. Again, I mentioned 16, but 0 does count as one. I can scroll back down to it, or I can press on the settings tab, right clicking, it'll bring you back down to 0. Same thing with this, same thing with this. Now, give you an idea, if I reach my 512 on my channels, I can now leave subnet on 0 because subnet counts as 1, and every subnet will have 16 universes. So I can actually go up to 15 on this universe and use all of those universes, which is a whole lot of lights, because each one of these universes will have 512 channels. If I utilize all these universes on subnet 1, I can then go to subnet, if I use them all on subnet 0, I can then go to subnet 1 and start all over by going from 0, universe 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth, so on and so forth. Hope that makes sense. If you wanted if you did manage to use 15 subnets and 15 universes of 512, not only will that be a massive show that you're putting on, but it's a lot of computing. You would be able to increase that by putting a new universe. You'll notice that it's L universe universe 1 and L universe 2, and you can do up to 4 of these universes, which is unlike the universes of lumiverse, excuse me. So I can actually close out of those because we're not going to be working with those any further. Defaults are going to be for your clips. You can set them to a timeline. Each clip will have a timeline that it goes from beginning to end. That will be the timeline of your video clip, or you can set it to do a BPM sync. BPM sync meaning beats per minute. So your clip will actually be set to the beats per minute of the music and or audio that you have going on. Same thing goes for audio. You can do timeline and beats per minute. But let's leave everything on timeline so that it operates smoother. These are your defaults, so it will do whatever you do to this here in preference. It will do it to every single clip that you input into your composition. So you would want to leave it at timeline, and then within the clip you'll be able to do these same settings for the clips individually versus all of the clips done here in preference. Default video clip play mode. These are actually, what you see here is a reloop, so meaning that you will play your clip from beginning to end and it will seamlessly play back from the beginning. Bounce will play from beginning to end and then from end to beginning, and continue doing that in a bouncing format. Random allows you to actually jump within your clip to random scenes in that clip and or frames. And play once and clear is pretty self-explanatory. You'll be able to play your clip once, and as soon as it reaches the end, it's going to clear. Down here you have play once and hold. So if you have a video that is end frame is a logo, this would be a great option to have within the clip itself. Again, not within the preference, because then it will do it to every single clip that you're utilizing. But it does give you the option to do that if you wanted it. It will play the entire clip, and at the very end hold on the last frame. So if you end with a logo and need to keep that logo up, this is a great option to have. For our purposes, we're going to leave it on loop. Same thing goes with audio. You can re-loop the audio, you can bounce the audio. The only thing that if you bounce the audio, once it reaches the end and it comes back, it will be playing in rewind, so you won't understand anything. It's going to be playing backwards. Random or jump throughout the timeline of the audio clip, so it'll jump every second or 2 seconds depending on the parameters you set, and it will probably not be a coherent type of sound, but it will jump around. Resolume does give you the option in case you need to do that. Same thing down here as with the video. The audio will play once and clear, and play once and hold will hold the last note of that audio, which can be a little annoying. For this purpose, we'll leave it as loop. Right here you have your restart, your continue, and your relative, which is a little bit more advanced. It's the same thing on the audio. We're going to skip that for now. And then your blend modes are going to be effect for your video. If you want to transition from one clip to the next clip, you can do all types of different transition. Tempo nudge, I like to have it at 25%, and that we'll discuss a little bit more in detail in this section here on your left. And your feedback is very important to have. I like having the feedback because it goes directly to the developers of Resolume. They are very responsive, so if you send a particular request to them and you're having a concern, your Resolume crashed and or froze, which rarely ever happens, you would be able to send them your feedback with your view log. The log will detail everything to Resolume as to what the challenges were, information about your computer and what was happening with your computer when that particular program crashed. Is going to be sent to them so that they can tell whether or not it was Resolume related and or a combination of things that created the fault in the first place. If it was unique to Resolume, what they will do is they will answer you, and they may even address it in a Resolume update that goes out to the general public. Everybody that performs and or uses Resolume will receive that update, and they can then download and upgrade so that they don't experience those same issues in the future. Beautiful thing is that every time somebody sends in a feedback, Resolume will send that update out to everybody, so you may get somebody else's update issues and then before you even experience them. So that's great to have. Definitely leave on your include log files, because if you're just giving feedback, it's considered constructive criticism. They will not know really what's happening because they can't see the log and the details of what you were experiencing. Thank you so much for joining this Resolume video on the Preferences tab. We'll continue in a minute with the composition. Actually, we'll continue with the fixture editor, and then we'll keep going down the list here so that you can learn a little bit about what we have in all of these areas. Again, my name is Nestor with Mike Sipe Entertainment, GPS Global Production Source. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.